The distress signal had been broadcasting for 17 standard cycles when the Galactic Council finally acknowledged it. Ambassador of the species stood before the council chamber, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly as he processed the encrypted message for the assembled delegates. The signal originates from the colony in the Outer Rim territories, announced, his translator device converting his clicking language into the universal tongue. 3,000 civilians, mostly scientists and their families. They report an invasion force of unknown origin. Murmurs spread through the chamber like waves through still water. The delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats, their various appendages and limbs moving with nervous energy. The Galactic Council represented 47 species from across the known universe, yet not a single one volunteered to send aid. "The Outer Rim is far beyond our patrol routes," spoke High Commander of the Military Alliance. His scaled body remained rigid as he addressed the Council. Sending a fleet would take 60 cycles minimum. By then, the colony would already be lost. "Then we do nothing?" asked a delegate from the Confederation. Her soft, luminescent skin pulsed with distress. "We simply let 3,000 souls perish." Silence fell over the chamber. Every species present knew the truth that none dared speak aloud. They were afraid. The unknown invaders had already destroyed 2 patrol ships that attempted to investigate. Whatever lurked in the Outer Rim possessed technology and aggression that the peaceful alliance could not match. Ambassador cleared his throat membrane. "There is one option we have not considered." The chamber fell impossibly still. Every delegate understood what meant to suggest, yet none wished to hear it spoken. "We could contact the Terrans," said. The reaction was immediate. Several delegates rose from their seats in protest. Others made religious gestures to ward off evil. The representative actually trembled, her glow flickering like a dying star. "You cannot be serious," growled. You would invite those monsters into our affairs." "They are not monsters," replied calmly. "They are simply different from us, and they are the only species in the known galaxy capable of reaching the Outer Rim in time. The humans had been discovered 60 standard years ago when an exploration vessel accidentally entered their solar system. The first contact had been catastrophic. The crew, unprepared for the heavy gravity and toxic atmosphere of Earth, had crashed on the planet's surface. They expected death. Instead, the humans had rescued them. That rescue had terrified the galactic community more than any act of war ever could. The humans had walked through radiation that would kill most species in minutes. They breathed an atmosphere so corrosive it could eat through standard hull plating. Their world was covered in liquid water filled with predators that made the war beasts look like pets. Parasites lived inside their bodies. Diseases mutated and evolved constantly. The very planet itself tried to kill everything on its surface through earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanic eruptions, and extreme temperature variations. Yet humans not only survived on this nightmare world, they thrived. They had conquered every environment their planet offered. They had tamed fire, split atoms, and reached into space through sheer stubborn determination. When the galactic community learned that humans considered their world beautiful, that they felt genuine affection for their death planet, the fear had become complete. "The Terrans have signed aggression treaties with us," continued. "They have honored every agreement. They have never initiated conflict with any council species." "Because they have not needed to," another delegate muttered. "They know we pose no threat." This was true. In the decades since first contact, humanity had advanced rapidly. They reverse-engineered galactic technology in months that took other species centuries to develop. Their ships were faster, their weapons more powerful, their soldiers more terrifying than anything the galaxy had seen. A single human marine could survive conditions that would kill a squad of warriors. They could heal from wounds that would be fatal to any other species. They could function without sleep for days, push through pain that would incapacitate others, and most frighteningly of all, They could modify their own bodies with mechanical enhancements. The galaxy had a word for humans now. They called them beings forged in the fires of a hostile universe, shaped by evolution into the perfect predators. "I will send the message," said finally. "The Council can debate whether to accept their help, but those colonists deserve to know that someone is willing to try." The message reached Earth 7 hours later. It was received by Admiral Sarah at Terran Fleet Command, a woman who had served humanity for 30 years and had seen things in the darkness between stars that would break lesser minds. She read the distress signal 3 times before summoning her senior staff. 3,000 civilians, she said, projecting the message onto the briefing room display. Scientists, families, children, under attack by an unknown hostile force. The Galactic Council has declined to assist due to distance and risk assessment. Commander James studied the tactical data with cold, calculating eyes. He was a tall man, broad-shouldered and from a dozen conflicts. His cybernetic left arm hummed softly as he manipulated the holographic display. "The outer rim is 8 days at maximum faster than light travel," noted. "Our new Dreadnought-class ships could make it in 3. "The Council specifically asked for a single vessel," Admiral replied. "They are afraid of what we might do if we arrive in force." "With respect, Admiral, they should be," said Lieutenant Commander, the fleet's senior tactical officer. "A single ship entering hostile territory with no backup, that is suicide for any other species." Admiral smiled without warmth. "For any other species, yes, but we are not any other species, are we?" She pulled up the specifications for the vessel in the Terran fleet. The TSS Vengeance was a ship designed not for exploration or diplomacy, but for war. It carried enough firepower to glass a planet and enough Marines to conquer one. Its hull was reinforced with materials that could withstand direct nuclear strikes. Its engines could outrun anything in the known galaxy. "The Vengeance is currently completing her shakedown cruise near Jupiter," Admiral continued. "Captain Stone is in command. He has experience with first-contact situations and hostile engagements." Stone raised an eyebrow. "The man who single-handedly held off the incursion at Colony." "The same. He lost an eye in that battle and refused to have it replaced. Said the scar reminds him what happens when he fails to protect people." The decision was made within the hour. The TSS Vengeance received her orders and immediately changed course for the outer rim. On board, Captain Stone addressed his crew of 400 souls. "You have all read the mission brief," Stone said, his voice carrying through every compartment of the ship. "Civilian colony under attack, unknown hostile force. The Galactic Council has written them off as dead. We are going to prove them wrong." He stood on the bridge, a figure of controlled intensity. His remaining eye, a deep brown that had seen too much death, scanned the faces of his crew. These were humans, products of a world that killed the weak and forged the strong. They had survived training programs that alien species considered torture. They had volunteered for duties that others called impossible. "I will not lie to you," Stone continued. "We do not know what we are facing. We do not know their numbers, their capabilities, or their intentions. What we do know is that 3,000 people are counting on us to reach them in time. Civilians who have never fired a weapon in their lives. Children who have never known war." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle over the crew. "The galaxy thinks humans are monsters. They fear us because we survive. They fear us because we adapt. They fear us because we do not give up, do not surrender, do not break. Today, we show them why they should also respect us. We show them that humanity protects the innocent, regardless of species. We show them that when someone calls for help, humans answer." The Vengeance accelerated to faster than light speed, her engines screaming through the void as she raced toward the outer rim. 3 days of travel stretched before them, 3 days of preparation, and planning for a battle they could not yet understand. In the colony, The survivors huddled in the underground bunkers that had been designed for atmospheric emergencies. The research station above them lay in ruins, its domes shattered and its corridors filled with the bodies of those who had not reached shelter in time. Director of the research division pressed her back against the cold metal wall and tried to steady her breathing. Around her, the terrified faces of her colleagues reflected the dim emergency lighting. Scientists who had spent their lives studying stellar phenomena now cowered like prey animals waiting for the predator to find them. "The distress signal is still broadcasting," her assistant reported, "but we have received no response from the Council." "They will not come," said quietly. "We are too far, we are too few. The mathematics of their response calculation will not favor intervention." She had lived her entire life believing in the galactic community, trusting that the Council would protect its citizens from harm. Now she understood the truth. The Council protected itself. Individual colonies were acceptable losses. The ground trembled as something massive moved through the ruins above them. The invaders were still searching, still hunting for survivors, had glimpsed them only briefly through a security monitor before the cameras were destroyed. Tall, creatures with glossy black carapaces and multiple limbs that ended in razor-sharp appendages. They moved with coordinated precision, communicating through clicks and whistles that no translation device could decipher. They had arrived without warning, their ships emerging from some kind of dimensional tier in space. Within hours, they had overwhelmed the colony's minimal defenses and begun systematically eliminating the population. Their purpose remained unclear. They took nothing, claimed nothing. They simply killed. "We have food supplies for perhaps 10 days, the assistant continued. "Water for 15, after that. After that, they would have to surface. After that, they would die like all the others." Closed her 4 eyes and tried to remember what peace felt like. She thought of her, of the gentle rains and the singing trees that had been destroyed in a war long before her birth. She thought of her family, who had encouraged her to seek knowledge among the stars. She thought of all the discoveries she had made, all the papers she had published, all the small contributions she had made to galactic understanding. It would all end here, in a cold bunker on a forgotten world, at the hands of monsters from beyond known space. Then the communications terminal crackled with static. "Colony, this is the Terran ship Vengeance. We received your distress signal. We are en route at maximum speed. Estimated arrival in 47 hours. Hold your position and maintain silence. Help is coming." Stared at the terminal as if it had sprouted wings and begun singing. Around her, the other survivors exchanged looks of confusion and fear. They knew what Terrans were. Everyone in the galaxy knew. Someone whispered, "They are sending the..." "Perhaps they will kill the invaders," another voice offered hopefully. "Perhaps they will kill us all," came the reply. Made a decision. She activated the response channel and spoke clearly into the microphone. "Terran vessel Vengeance, this is Director of Colony. We acknowledge your transmission. We have approximately 1,000 survivors in underground shelters. The invaders have destroyed our surface facilities and are actively hunting for remaining colonists. We have no weapons capable of resistance. We are grateful for any assistance you can provide." She hesitated, then added something she had never imagined saying. "We are grateful that humans are coming." The response came immediately, a human voice filled with something that did not recognize. It was warmth, she realized. Compassion. Not the cold calculation of the Council, but genuine concern for living beings in distress. "Director, this is Captain Stone. I need you to tell me everything you know about these invaders. Every detail, no matter how small. We are going to get your people out of there. That is a promise." On board the Vengeance, Captain Stone studied the fragmentary data that Director transmitted. The images were grainy, corrupted by interference from the dimensional tier that had brought the invaders. But he had seen enough combat to recognize a superior enemy force when he saw one. "Analysis," he asked his tactical officer. Lieutenant worked her console with practiced efficiency. Based on the available footage, we are looking at approximately 30 to 40 individual hostile units on the surface. The dimensional tier suggests a much larger force in reserve, possibly hundreds or thousands more. Their weapons appear to be some kind of directed energy technology, more advanced than anything in the galactic database. Ship presence unknown. The tier may be their method of travel, or they may have conventional vessels waiting on the other side. We will not know until we arrive. Stone nodded grimly. The odds were not good. One ship against an unknown enemy with superior technology and potentially unlimited reinforcements. Any rational commander would turn back, report the situation to Fleet Command, and wait for a proper task force to be assembled. But those colonists did not have time for rational decisions. They had 47 hours before the vengeance arrived, and every passing minute brought them closer to discovery and death. Begin combat preparations, Stone ordered. I want every Marine in full gear and ready for planetary deployment. Load the drop ships with heavy weapons and medical supplies, and get me a direct line to Fleet Command. They need to know what we are walking into. The preparations took 12 hours. Marines who had been sleeping peacefully in their bunks awoke to find their armor and weapons laid out, their equipment checked and double-checked by teams of specialists. Pilots ran simulation after simulation, preparing for combat drops under hostile conditions. Engineers fine-tuned the ship's weapons systems, pushing them beyond their normal parameters into dangerous territory. And in the medical bay, Doctor prepared for casualties. She had served as the Vengeance's chief medical officer for 3 years, patching up Marines who had been shot, stabbed, burned, and broken in the line of duty. She had never lost a patient she could reasonably have saved. She did not intend to start now. We have 1,000 potential evacuees, she told her staff. Most will be suffering from trauma, dehydration, and malnutrition. Some will have injuries from the initial attack. Prepare triage protocols and clear the secondary cargo bays for temporary housing. These people have been through hell. We are going to make sure they survive. The Vengeance continued her journey through the darkness between stars, a single point of light racing toward a nightmare. Behind her, the comfortable worlds of the galactic community continued their peaceful existence, unaware that the fate of 3,000 lives now rested in the hands of the species they feared most. 47 hours. That was all the time Captain Stone had to prepare his people for battle against an enemy they did not understand. 47 hours to devise a strategy that would save civilians and defeat invaders without losing his entire crew in the process. He had faced worse odds before. At Colony, he had held a defensive position for 6 days against raiders with only 30 Marines and a handful of civilian volunteers. He had lost his eye on the 4th day, when a plasma blast caught him across the face. He had kept fighting anyway, directing operations from a medical stretcher until reinforcements finally arrived. The colonists had survived because Stone refused to give up. The colonists would survive for the same reason. In his private quarters, Stone reviewed the tactical data one final time. The invaders were strong, fast, and numerous. Their technology was advanced, their tactics ruthless. They had killed without mercy or hesitation, slaughtering civilians who posed no threat and could offer no resistance. Stone closed his remaining eye and made a decision. These invaders, whatever they were, had chosen to prey on the defenseless. They had come from their dimension expecting easy victims. They had expected no resistance, no consequences. They were about to learn why the galaxy feared humanity. They were about to learn what happened when went to war. The countdown timer on the bridge display showed 36 hours remaining. Stone stood and walked to the command center, where his crew awaited orders. They looked at him with trust and determination, human beings who had chosen to risk their lives for strangers they had never met. "All hands," Stone announced. "This is the captain. In 36 hours we engage the enemy. Some of us may not survive, but I promise you this. We will save those colonists. We will destroy those invaders. And we will show the galaxy what humanity is truly capable of." The crew responded with a roar of approval that echoed through the ship's corridors. They were afraid, as any sane beings would be. But they were also human, children of a death world, heirs to a legacy of survival against impossible odds. The Vengeance raced onward, her engines burning bright against the endless dark. And in the underground bunkers of Colony, 1,000 frightened souls waited for the monsters of legend to come save them from the monsters of reality. Director found herself praying for the first time in her adult life. She prayed that the humans would arrive in time. She prayed that they would be as fearsome as the stories claimed. And she prayed that when the killing was done, they would remember that some of the survivors were supposed to be friends. The galaxy had always feared what humans could destroy. Perhaps it was time to show them what humans could protect. The timer continued counting down. 35 hours, 34. Each passing moment brought the Vengeance closer to battle and the colonists closer to salvation or extinction. The universe held its breath, waiting to see what would happen when the children of Earth met the monsters from beyond the stars. In the darkness of space, a single ship carried the hopes of 3,000 lives. And on that ship, 400 humans prepared to remind the galaxy why their species had never been conquered, never been broken, never been defeated. They were coming, and they were not coming to negotiate. The Vengeance dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system, her sensors immediately scanning the space around her. Captain Stone stood at the center of the bridge, his single eye fixed on the main display as data flooded across multiple screens. "Contact," Lieutenant reported. "The dimensional tier is still active. It measures approximately 3 kilometers in diameter and appears stable. I am detecting significant energy signatures on the other side, but our sensors cannot penetrate the barrier." The colony. Surface structures destroyed as reported. I am reading heat signatures in the underground bunkers consistent with the survivor count Director provided. They are still alive, Captain. Stone allowed himself a moment of relief. They had made it in time. Now came the hard part. Enemy presence. Approximately 50 hostile units on the surface. They appear to be conducting systematic sweeps of the remaining structures. Additional units are emerging from the dimensional tier at irregular intervals. Whatever is on the other side is sending reinforcements. The captain studied the tactical display with cold calculation. 50 enemies, possibly more arriving every hour. A dimensional portal that could spew unlimited hostiles onto the battlefield. 1,000 civilians trapped underground with no means of defense or escape. It was not an impossible situation. It was merely extremely difficult. For humans, those two things were not the same. "Deploy reconnaissance drones," Stone ordered. "I want detailed mapping of the enemy positions and movement patterns. Have the Marine detachment prepare for hot insertion. We go in hard and fast, establish a perimeter around the bunker entrances, and evacuate the civilians to the drop ships." "And the dimensional tier?" Commander asked. "We close it." The bridge fell silent. Closing the tier would require precision bombardment from orbit, which meant targeting a structure that existed partially outside normal space-time. The calculations were beyond anything the galactic community had attempted. A miscalculation could destabilize the local area of space and destroy everything within light years. "I will begin the firing solutions," said quietly. "It will take time to calculate the necessary trajectories." "You have 2 hours. After that, we engage whether the calculations are complete or not." The reconnaissance drones launched from the Vengeance's underbelly like a swarm of metal insects, racing toward the planet's surface on silent engines. They spread across the colony site, their cameras and sensors gathering data that streamed back to the ship in real time. What they found was worse than expected. The invaders had not simply destroyed the colony. They had harvested it. Dozens of colonist bodies hung from improvised structures, their internal organs removed with surgical precision. The creatures were feeding on the dead, their mandibles clicking as they consumed the flesh of beings who had done them no harm. Captain Stone watched the footage without expression. Around him, his crew reacted with horror and rage, their hands clenching into fists as they witnessed the atrocity. "They eat their kills," said through gritted teeth. "They are not just invaders, they are predators." "They were predators," Stone corrected. "In 2 hours they will be extinct." The Marine detachment assembled in the main cargo bay, 200 soldiers in full combat armor. Each one carried weapons that could level buildings and equipment that could survive direct exposure to vacuum. They were the finest warriors humanity had ever produced, trained in every form of combat known to the species, and several that were completely unique to human military doctrine. Master Sergeant David addressed his troops with the quiet intensity of a veteran who had seen too many battles to count. He was a massive man, his body augmented with cybernetic enhancements that made him stronger, faster, and more durable than any unmodified human. "The briefing covered the basics," said, "but I am going to tell you what the briefing did not. These things eat people. They hung colonists up like meat in a butcher shop and carved them apart while they were still alive. Some of those colonists were children." He let that sink in before continuing. "When we hit the ground, there is no negotiation. There is no surrender. There is no mercy. We kill every single one of these things until none remain. Then we get the survivors off this rock and we blow that portal to hell." Questions? There were none. The drop ships launched precisely 2 hours after arrival, their hulls glowing with heat as they entered the planet's atmosphere. The invaders detected them immediately, turning their attention from the bunker search to the new threat descending from the sky. Energy weapons fired upward, streaking across the atmosphere like angry lightning. The dropship pilots responded with evasive maneuvers that would have killed alien pilots, pulling gravitational forces that human bodies had evolved to withstand. One ship took a glancing hit to its wing, the pilot compensating instantly and maintaining formation without missing a beat. 30 seconds to touchdown, the lead pilot announced. "Enemy concentration around the primary bunker entrance. They know why we are here." "Good," replied, "less hunting to do." The dropships hit the ground with controlled violence, their ramps slamming down before the landing struts had finished absorbing the impact. Marines poured out in practiced formations, their weapons already firing at the invaders who rushed to meet them. The first exchange was brutal and swift. Human firearms spat magnetically accelerated rounds that punched through the carapaces like paper. The invaders returned fire with their energy weapons, but the Marines had already scattered into cover, using the colony's ruins as protection while they advanced. Led his squad directly toward the largest concentration of enemies, his cybernetic arm wielding a heavy assault cannon that had been designed to engage armored vehicles. Each shot tore through multiple invaders, spraying ichor and chitin across the scorched ground. "Push forward," he roared over the comm channel. "Do not let them regroup." The invaders were fast and strong, their multiple limbs allowing them to attack from unexpected angles. But they had never faced humans before. They had never encountered a species that fought with such coordinated ferocity, that adapted to their tactics in real time and exploited every weakness. A Marine went down, an energy blast catching her in the chest and overloading her armor's shields. Her immediately covered her position while a medic dragged her to safety. Within seconds, another Marine had taken her place in the line, maintaining the pressure that was slowly but surely driving the invaders back. On the Vengeance, Captain Stone watched the battle unfold through the data links connecting him to every Marine on the ground. He tracked casualties, ammunition expenditure, and enemy movements with the cold efficiency of a chess master playing a game where the stakes were measured in lives. Status on the firing solution. 92% complete, Captain. I need another 8 minutes for final calculations. You have 5. Prepare to engage any ships that emerge from the tier. I want our weapons hot and ready. Understood, sir. The battle on the surface had shifted. The invaders, realizing that they were facing an enemy unlike any they had encountered, began falling back toward the dimensional tier. They moved with the desperation of creatures who understood they were losing. Noticed the retreat and made a split-second decision. All units pursue but maintain formation. They are trying to reach the portal for reinforcements. We cannot let that happen. The Marines surged forward, cutting down invaders as they ran. The colonial grounds became a killing field, bodies of the creatures piling up as human weapons harvested them with industrial efficiency. Then the reinforcements came. The dimensional tier pulsed with sickly light, and something massive began emerging from its surface. It was larger than any of the other invaders, its carapace thick with chitinous armor and its limbs ending in appendages that looked like they could tear through starship hulls. "Contact," a Marine shouted. "We have a big one coming through." The creature cleared the portal and immediately opened fire with some kind of organic weapon system built into its body. The blast caught a squad of Marines head-on, vaporizing 3 of them instantly and throwing the others to the ground. Did not hesitate. He charged directly at the massive creature, his assault cannon roaring as he closed the distance. The round struck the creature's armor and actually penetrated, dark fluid spraying from multiple wounds, but the thing did not fall. It turned toward with what might have been recognition. Perhaps it understood that this human was different from the others, larger and more dangerous. Perhaps it simply sought the nearest threat. Either way, it brought its organic weapons to bear on the sergeant. Dropped his cannon and drew the blade strapped to his back. It was an old weapon, a machete that had belonged to his grandfather and had been modified with monomolecular edge technology. In his cybernetic hand, it became an instrument of destruction. He ducked under the creature's first blast and closed to melee range. The blade sang through the air, severing one of the creature's weapon limbs at the joint. Ichor sprayed across armor as he pressed the attack, cutting and slashing with mechanical precision. The creature fought back, its remaining limbs striking at the human who dared challenge it in close combat. Took a blow to his side that cracked 3 ribs, the impact sending him staggering. He did not fall. He never fell. With a roar that was equal parts pain and fury, he drove the machete into the creature's central mass, directly into what his tactical implants identified as its primary neural cluster. The blade sank deep, and the creature convulsed once before collapsing. "Area secure," reported, his voice steady despite his injuries. "The big one is down. Continue the advance." On the bridge of the Vengeance, Captain Stone smiled grimly. "Firing solution." "Complete, Captain. Ready on your command." "All ground forces, this is actual. Fall back to evacuation positions immediately. Orbital strike incoming in 90 seconds. The Marines responded instantly, years of training overriding the aggressive instinct to press their advantage. They in disciplined formations, covering each other as they fell back toward the bunker entrances where the drop ships waited. Director and the surviving colonists emerged from their underground shelters to find themselves surrounded by armored giants. The humans were terrifying up close, their faces hidden behind helmets and their bodies encased in technology that made them look more machine than organic. "Director," a voice called through a speaker. "I am Master Sergeant. We are here to evacuate you and your people. Please follow my troops to the drop ships. We do not have much time." Stared at the human, unable to process what she was seeing. Blood and ichor covered his armor. One of his shoulder plates was cracked from some tremendous impact, yet he moved with confidence and purpose, as if he had not just fought through a nightmare made flesh. "You came," she whispered. "You actually came." "Of course we came," replied. "That is what we do." The evacuation proceeded with military efficiency. Colonists who could walk were guided to the drop ships in organized groups. Those who could not were carried by Marines who handled them with surprising gentleness. Medical personnel triaged injuries on the move, stabilizing the wounded for the journey to orbit. Above them, the Vengeance opened fire. The orbital strike was a thing of terrible beauty. Concentrated beams of energy lanced down from the dreadnought, striking the dimensional tier with precision that would have been impossible for any other species. The calculations that Lieutenant had performed were executed flawlessly, each shot weakening the spatial anomaly without destabilizing the surrounding region. The invaders who had not yet retreated through the portal died in the bombardment. Their reinforcements, caught mid-transit when the tier began to collapse, were torn apart by forces that existed between dimensions. The portal itself shuddered, contracted, and then imploded with a flash of light that was visible from orbit. "Portal destroyed," reported, detecting no remaining hostile signatures on the surface. "Drop ships, what is your status?" Stone demanded. "All civilians aboard, Captain. We are lifting off now." Stone watched the drop ships rise from the planet's surface, their cargo holds packed with the survivors of a massacre that had nearly claimed every life on the colony. Behind them, the ruins of smoldered under an alien sun. "Set course for home," Stone ordered. "Maximum speed, and get me a channel to the Galactic Council. I have a few things to say to them." The journey back to civilized space took 3 days. During that time, the colonists were treated for their injuries, given food and water, and slowly began to process the trauma of their ordeal. They shared space with the humans who had saved them, initially afraid but gradually coming to understand that these were not the monsters the galaxy believed them to be. Director spent much of the journey on the bridge, observing the human crew at work. She watched them laugh and joke with each other, saw them mourn the 7 Marines who had died in the rescue, noticed the way they checked on their passengers with genuine concern. "You are not what I expected," she told Captain Stone during one of their conversations. "The stories we have heard made humans sound like barely contained killers, but your people risked their lives for strangers of a different species. They showed compassion and courage in equal measure." Stone considered her words carefully before responding. "Director, let me tell you something about humanity. We are violent. We are aggressive. We have spent most of our history finding new ways to kill each other, but we are also capable of tremendous love, sacrifice, and kindness. The same instincts that make us dangerous also make us protective. When someone threatens those under our care, we respond with everything we have." He gestured toward the viewport, where stars streamed past in brilliant lines of light. "The galaxy sees humans and assumes we are monsters because we come from a harsh world. They do not understand that our harshness made us value life more than species who have never known struggle. Every human alive is descended from survivors who fought against impossible odds. That heritage shapes everything we do." Thought about this for a long time. The Council will want to know what happened here. They will want to study the invaders, understand where they came from, prepare defenses against future incursions. "They can have our sensor data and tactical analysis," Stone replied, "but they need to understand something first. If those creatures had attacked a human colony, we would have responded the same way. We would have sent ships, fought battles, and protected our people at any cost. The difference is that when it happened to your people, we came anyway. Why? We are not humans. We have no treaties requiring your intervention. The Council certainly did not ask for your help." Stone turned to face her directly, his single eye meeting her with unflinching honesty. Because it was the right thing to do. Because there were children hiding in bunkers, terrified that monsters would find them. Because when someone sends a cry for help into the darkness, they deserve to know that someone is listening. He paused, then added something that would remember for the rest of her life. The galaxy fears what we can destroy. Perhaps now they will learn what we are willing to protect. The Vengeance arrived at the Galactic Council's headquarters station to a reception unlike anything her crew had anticipated. Word of the rescue had spread across the communication networks, carried by survivors who had found working terminals and transmitted their gratitude to the stars. Thousands of beings lined the docking corridors as the colonists disembarked. Species that had never spoken to humans gathered to see these who had crossed the galaxy to save strangers. The fear was still present in their eyes, but it was mixed now with something new. Respect, perhaps even admiration. Director addressed the Galactic Council the following day, her testimony broadcast to every inhabited world in known space. She described the attack, the desperation of the survivors, and the arrival of the human ship that should have been too far away to help. They came because we asked, concluded. They fought and died because we needed them. When the rest of the galaxy calculated the costs and decided we were not worth saving, the humans ignored the mathematics and answered our call anyway. She turned to address Ambassador directly. You were the one who suggested contacting them. You saw what no one else was willing to see. That beneath their terrifying exterior, humans are capable of the same compassion that defines the best of the galactic community. The council chamber erupted in debate, as it always did. Some delegates argued that humans had simply acted out of self-interest, seeking to demonstrate their military capabilities. Others insisted that the rescue proved nothing, that humans remained too dangerous to trust. But something had changed. The footage had spread across the networks, showing human Marines risking their lives to protect alien civilians, showing medics treating wounds and soldiers carrying children to safety, showing acts of heroism and sacrifice that the narrative of humans as uncontrollable monsters. Captain Stone stood before the council at its invitation, the first human military officer to address the assembly in its history. He wore his dress uniform, the medals on his chest representing decades of service and sacrifice. His single eye surveyed the gathered delegates with the calm confidence of a man who had nothing to prove. You invited me to speak, Stone began, so I will tell you the truth. Humanity did not rescue the colonists to impress you. We did not cross the galaxy seeking approval or political advantage. We did it because leaving those people to die was not something we were willing to accept. He paused, letting his words echo through the vast chamber. The galactic community has spent 60 years deciding whether to trust humans. You have watched us from a distance, studied our history, analyzed our psychology, and concluded that we are too violent, too unpredictable, too dangerous to accept as equals. You may be right. Humans have done terrible things to each other throughout our history. We are capable of cruelty that would shock any species here. Stone's voice hardened with conviction. But we are also capable of this, of crossing the void to save strangers, of fighting monsters so that children can sleep safely, of refusing to accept that some lives are not worth the effort of saving. That is what it means to be human, the capacity for destruction and the will to protect, the ability to kill and the choice not to unless necessary. He looked directly at High Commander, who had argued most strenuously against sending human aid. Your mathematics said the colonists were not worth saving. Our humanity said they were. When the next crisis comes, and it will come, you will have to decide which philosophy you want defending your people. The council debated for 7 more days before reaching a consensus. The Terran government was invited to open formal diplomatic relations with the galactic community. Human ships would be permitted in council space. Human merchants could trade in council markets, and human colonists could settle on worlds designated for mixed species habitation. It was not full acceptance. The fear ran too deep for that. But it was a beginning, a first step toward a future where humanity's place in the galaxy was defined by more than the planet of their birth. On the bridge of the Vengeance, now docked at Earth's orbital headquarters for repairs and crew rotation, Captain Stone received the news with quiet satisfaction. Around him, his crew celebrated the diplomatic breakthrough, understanding that their actions had changed the course of relations. "We did good work," Commander said, raising a glass of something that probably violated several regulations. "Those colonists are alive because of this crew." "They are alive because humanity answered a call for help," Stone corrected. "That is all. We simply did what any of us would do." Somewhere across the galaxy, Director was writing her report on the incident, documenting every detail of the human response for future historians. She included the tactics, the technology, the casualties on both sides. But she also included something else, something she felt was more important than any tactical analysis. She included the look on Sergeant's face when he found the first colonist children hiding in a storage compartment, the way his terrifying armored form had knelt down and spoken softly to calm their fears. She included the Marine medic who had stayed awake for 40 hours treating the wounded, refusing sleep, until every patient was stable. She included Captain Stone's words about what humanity was willing to protect. The galaxy would remember as the moment everything changed, the moment when the proved that their world had not just made them killers, it had made them protectors. In the darkness between stars, the dimensional tier was gone, sealed forever by human weapons. The invaders who had crossed it were extinct, every last one destroyed by a species they had not known existed. There, wherever it was, would never learn what had happened to their invasion force. They had reached into a new universe expecting easy prey. They had found humanity instead. And humanity had shown them no mercy. Years later, when historians wrote about the turning point in human-galactic relations, they would focus on the diplomatic achievements and political maneuvering that followed. But those who had been there, who had seen the humans fight and die and triumph, knew the truth. The galaxy had not accepted humanity because of politics. They had accepted them because, when 3,000 souls cried out for help, humans had been the only ones willing to answer. That was the legacy of the Vengeance and her crew. That was what it meant to be in a galaxy full of species who had never learned to survive. The stars stretched on forever, cold and indifferent to the struggles of mortal beings. But somewhere among them, humanity was making its presence known. Not as conquerors or destroyers, though they could be both when necessary, but as guardians, protectors, beings who had looked into the darkness and chosen to carry their own light. The next call for help would come, as it always did. And when it did, humans would answer. They would cross any distance, face any enemy, pay any price to protect those who could not protect themselves. Because that was who they were. That was what their death world had made them. And the galaxy was finally beginning to understand.